All right, everybody. Welcome to the Thursday episode of Locked On NHL. On today's episode, we will be doing a power ranking, and it will be the Hart Trophy, which we all know who's going to win it. But we polled the hosts for Locked On NHL, and it's pretty much who's 2 through 10, right? So we will talk about that. And the playoffs are pretty much set. We're just still waiting for one more team to stake their claim to the playoffs. Of all the teams who missed out, we're going to do that thing where we look ahead to next year and who are those teams that were eliminated that could be in next year. Brand new episode of Locked On NHL. Chris Maselli, Adam Denker, and those dogs. We're about to let them out. Danky Dank, let's do this.
For Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On NHL podcast. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. From Locked On Avalanche, I'm Chris Maselli. From Locked On Tampa Bay Lightning, he is Mr. Mixtape, Adam Denker. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day. That is always appreciated. We'll get to those Hart power rankings in a little bit, but we kind of want to start right off the top here because the playoffs are right around the corner. And I always like doing this. I always looking at the teams who were eliminated and looking ahead to next year and kind of just guessing with maybe a good offseason, a good signing here or there, maybe a good draft pick that maybe steps in right away, which doesn't happen all the time. But, you know, those teams that just miss out, you do all those things in the offseason. Next year, they're kind of those teams that are trending up. Who could punch their ticket for next year? And as we're recording this before the Islanders are set to drop the puck against the Montreal Canadiens. And I believe they're the last. That's the last team that we're waiting on, right? Because the first wild card is taken by the Panthers. In the West, everything is buttoned up. You have the Kraken and the Jets are your wild cards. So it's just the Islanders. So if the Islanders get a single point, and you will know that by the time you're listening to this on Thursday morning or sometime during Thursday, they are in. If they lose in regulation, then it's down to the last game between them and the Penguins could still get in. And the Penguins just fumbled that thing. It was there for the taking. You know, you're going up against two terrible teams and you lose to Chicago. So if the Islanders get a point, they're in and we have our playoffs. Everything is set. So next year, let's kind of do that. Let's look into those teams that were eliminated. And I guess we'll just start this, by conference, and we'll go to the East first. What are you thinking, Mr. Denker? As a team, let me ask it this way: was there a team that you picked to make the playoffs that did not this year, if you can remember back then?
I think if I had to guess, I think probably Washington was in that mix.
Did you have Washington? I remember you liked them in the beginning of the season.
I like them, but I think my main concern with them, as kind of it always is every year with this team, is that, you know, we always ask ourselves, are they at that point where they're too old to sustain getting through an 82 game season? And
right.
The answer was given to us this year. I think actually just Washington, really. I think you could add Pittsburgh to that mix if the Islanders do win tonight.
That's easy.
Yeah.
That's too easy. Come on. Really going out on a limb there.
But the team that I really think that has not made the playoffs out of the East, and I think this is also an easy one as well, the team that I think is going to make the playoffs next year that will be sitting at home watching it this year will be the Buffalo Sabres, the fourth highest scoring team this season in the entire league.
Yeah.
And I mean, they have all the makings of a superstar, if you want to count him as one right now, in Tage Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
They're a very dangerous team. They play a lot of the teams, especially in the Atlantic Division, very, very tough. So I could see them, you know, with maybe one more piece or just a little bit more of stable play from their goaltending. We could see them possibly in the wild card spot next year or possibly contending for the division title.
Yeah, and they made a run for it. I
Yeah.
think there was a little period of time where it seemed like they were tailing off, and maybe not them, but I think maybe the fans and the the media were maybe throwing in a towel on them. They're like, yeah, well, you had a better season, and then they made a pretty nice push at the end, 7-2-1 in their last 10. So they were there right up until pretty much the bitter end. So you have to like where things are trending for Buffalo. They have and they're young. They are a young team, so they could be around for quite a while. I'm pretty sure my picks at the beginning of the season, and I typically like to predict teams that didn't make it the year before at the beginning of the season. I like to kind of like throw them in. It's because it's just too easy to keep picking the same teams over and over again. I'm almost positive I picked Ottawa to make the playoffs this year. And I think like well, not to use the term wild card, but pretty much what it is. I think I threw Detroit in there as well. So, two teams that Ottawa, impressive, right? 85 points right now. They have one more game to go. Only 2 points behind Buffalo, who we're, loving right now. And Ottawa just continues to trend up. So I think they could be in the mix next year. And going back to my other pick with the Red Wings, I thought I was expecting more of the out of the Red Wings this year. It really was. I thought they I sure if I picked them, but I wasn't. I could still see them not getting in, but I thought they would be like in a situation Pittsburgh is in right now.
Yeah,
like you're down to the last couple games, and you have a chance to get in, and they're not. They're eliminated. They got eliminated a little bit ago, but I don't know. I think they keep making moves that you like, right? They don't really make moves that you're scratching your head saying like, well, that's not going to help them. They continually make moves that you are impressed by. Like that is a good signing for that team. And then they just can't get over that hump. Like you just said, like that 82 game season just seems to be, the death knell for them that they just, I don't know, they run out of gas or whatever the case may be. What do you think?
Yeah. I think that they made a lot of good moves last year. You kind of would have figured with them having more of a stable goaltending situation on paper, that would have been kind of the tipping point for them to get into the playoffs. But obviously, I think, Chris, what it comes down to it is that when you have teams like the Penguins, like the Islanders, even the Panthers, who I think, at least for me, I'm shocked that we're sitting here with one game left in the season, or I guess 2 games left in the season, depending on how you look at it, 2 for the actual season or 1 for your team. That we're talking about the Florida Panthers. I think it just comes down to that. I think it just comes down to the East being very competitive, and you have these young and upcoming teams like a Buffalo, like a Detroit, who are just kind of almost caught in the competitive whirlwind that is the Metropolitan and the Atlantic. So I think it's just that. I think with time and experience, you're going to see a shift and change. Obviously, the teams like Washington and Pittsburgh are going to take a step back, and we're going to see, if not next year, the year after, we're going to see Buffalo and Detroit definitely take that step forward.
Now, before we get over to the West, let me throw this out there because this pertains to them too. The West, I'm saying the Western Conference, both conferences. Wherever Connor Bedard goes, does he immediately make that team a contender in year 1? I know that's tough to answer because you don't know where he's going.
Yeah.
But and I say contender, not that they're going to be in the playoffs, but just what that phrase means, contending for a spot, a playoff spot. Is he that good of a player that at that age he could turn a franchise around, or more needs to happen with it wherever he goes?
I think any team he goes to that's not named the Blue Jackets or the Sharks, actually, you know what? I take that back. I think the Sharks would be a very good team with him. I think the Blue Jackets or the Black Hawks. I think any other team besides those two, I think you see them start to make some noise. Now, obviously, that's all dependent on if we get the kind of Connor Bedard performance that we've been seeing for the last couple of seasons now. I mean, I don't know how likely that's going to be, Chris. I mean, he scored, 60 goals this year? I think he was putting up McDavid numbers.
Yeah, it was like 60 goals in like 3 games or something like that. Right?
Something like that.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I think the Blue Jackets, I didn't think they were going to be this bad. I really didn't think they were going to be that bad. I didn't think they were going to be good, but I didn't think it was going to be that horrible. So maybe he makes them, he would make them a little bit better, I think, for sure. But we'll have to see. All right, let's hear from Built Bar, and then we'll get over to the Western Conference, and then a little bit later we will get to those power rankings. Very interesting. Not surprising, but very interesting. If you're looking for a delicious snack but don't want all the sugar and calories, then you need to get the best tasting protein bar ever, and that is Built Bar. You got to try these bad boys. If you're like Mr. Denker and myself, you want to make healthier snack choices, but you don't want to compromise on taste. We've got just the thing for you. That is Built Bars and Built Bar Puffs. Bars are healthy and they taste amazing. Are you a puff fan? Do you prefer the puff or do you prefer the regular bar? Because Kyle and I go back and forth on this. Like, he's a puff man. I'm not.
I'm an old school regular Built Bar guy.
Yes, Chris, I would totally agree with you. What makes Built Bar so good? Well, for starters, they are covered in 100% real dark chocolate. That's right, real chocolate, and they come in unbelievably delicious flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and cookies and cream. And now you don't need to wait to get a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering Built Bars at Built.com, which you can still do, of course, but now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. And you can get your specialty flavors, like I said, over at Built.com. So if you're close to a Sam's Club, run in, grab a 13-bar box of our hit flavors, Brownie Batter Puff and Churro Puff. And you can still use, we've been told, that Locked 15 promo code over at Built.com. Delicious, delicious bars, healthy, good for you. Jump on the Built Bar bandwagon. All right, let's scoot on over to the West, over to the West side. Teams that missed out. Everything is set, like I said in the beginning, with the West. Teams that missed out, you had the Anaheim Ducks, Chicago Blackhawks, San Jose Sharks, Arizona Coyotes, Vancouver Canucks, St. Louis Blues, Nashville Predators, and the Calgary Flames. And that is a surprising one right there. I don't think many people had Calgary missing the playoffs at all. That is a shocker. So you're not allowed to say them because that's way too easy for picking next year. But anybody stand out for you in the West that could make a run next year?
I think Vancouver. I know that might be a surprise to some, but I don't know. I think they were actually one of my picks coming into this season. I think you may have had them as well, Chris, if I remember.
I think we all did. I think we were all enamored with Vancouver.
With Bruce, there it is.
Yeah. I think we like the way that they ended the season last year. You were like, oh, now they're going to have an off season together and they're going to come out swinging. And they had a rough go of it to start the season. If you remember, how many games in a row? Wasn't it like 6 or 7 games in a row that they had a 2-goal lead and lost it?
Yeah.
Maybe 7's too many, but it was at least like 5 where they had a 2-goal lead and blew it. First 5 or whatever games in a row to start the season. And from there, they just never recovered from that, which is shocking. And eventually Boudreau goes away. I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, yeah, you can throw Calgary in there. That's the easy thing to do. But other than that, there's really nothing that is impressing me on what the teams in the West have done to kind of set themselves up for next year. The West gave everything away to the East during the trade deadline.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they really kept nothing. So so when I brought up that Bedard thing in the East, I think he could make some waves. In the West, if he goes to a team like the Ducks or Chicago, you mentioned San Jose that he could do something. I'm not so sure. Arizona, that's a black hole. Vancouver, sure, maybe he makes them better. The Blues, they went backwards, and the Predators were in it until recently. They only got eliminated yesterday. But overall, the top team, there is a divide in the West between who your good teams are and who your bad teams are. And I don't think that changes much next year, with the exception of Calgary.
Well, you actually beat me to the punch, Chris. I thought I was going to be clever.
I'm good at that.
Just shock the entire
I'm
world.
good at
But
that. Yep.
I was going to say my other team that I thought was going to do something, and this is all based on if Connor Bedard goes there, is Anaheim. I just think him with Zegras, Strome, McTavish, Drysdale, and Terry. I think that's a team that is going to get 100% injected with momentum as soon as they get if they get the first overall pick, as soon as they announce Bedard's name. I think that is going to be a complete turnaround that we have not seen from a team since probably the Blues when they won the Cup. I know the circumstances were different. They were, in last during the regular season, came back and won it all. But, I mean, maybe for our listeners, write down in the comments below on YouTube. Off the top of my head, I can't think. Who was the last team to get the first overall pick and then win the Cup the next year? I'm not saying that the Ducks are going to do that, but a little bit of an interesting I'm
going to say it's never happened. If he goes to the Ducks, they will be an interesting team probably in a couple of years, definitely, because they have a lot of young guys and a lot of young talent that they will build up, but they just don't have kind of like those depth veteran guys. I don't feel like they don't have that good, both sides of having young talented guys that you're building up and they're learning the game, learning the league.
Yeah.
And those older guys, those elder statesmen that can kind of show them the ropes. Anaheim is just so young. So yeah, in a couple of years, I think they will be a very dangerous team, especially if you add Bedard to that. But I don't know, man. I don't see him joining any of these teams. And next year, that's what we're talking about, is next year, him making a big impact. I could see it on the East. I could see it for a couple teams on the East. That's just kind of where I'm at. So I'm just looking at these teams and how much they gave up to the East, and just nothing sticks out to me. Like, wow, that team is on the rise. There's so many teams on the East, that the ones that we just talked about, that continue to climb up and be like, yeah, next year maybe is the year that they take the step forward. All these teams that missed out, again, with the exception of Calgary and maybe Nashville, maybe throw Nashville, they're kind of like that fringe team, but everybody else, I think, went backwards. And there's nothing there to say like that in the offseason, they're going to make moves that put them forward going into the year. Maybe they'll make a little bit of waves, but the teams that are in the playoffs, those teams are entrenched. You know what I mean? Like, you got Colorado, Dallas, Minnesota, Vegas, Edmonton, the Kings, Winnipeg. Kraken will be interesting to see next year. Like, is this just like a little bit of a fluky thing? Nobody really took them all that serious. It'll be interesting to see what they do next year, if they can repeat this. But maybe that's where the switch comes. The Calgary makes it in and Seattle drops out. We don't know.
Yeah, I think Seattle, I think I definitely slept on them. I didn't expect them to do. I think they eclipsed their point total from last year, I think, by Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving. So
was it that, or it couldn't have been that early?
It was like
There's no way.
I think that I might be completely off base with this, but I feel like they didn't even get over like 55 points last year. I think they were that bad.
It was, and they're sitting at 100 right now. I don't think anybody's thought a 100-point season was coming for Seattle. Don't think.
And they didn't even win in the division, which is crazy.
Yeah,
it shows you how competitive the West is.
Yep, definitely. All right, let us hear from Game Time, and then we will get to our Hart Power Rankings as voted on by the hosts across Locked On NHL. But first, if you're buying tickets to your favorite event, it shouldn't be stressful, and that's why you need Game Time and thegametime.co. Make sure you make a mental note of that. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater near you with killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee. You can stop stressing over tickets and start getting hyped for the fun that you will no doubt eventually have. And some cool features that they have over at Gametime. One thing that I love is they have the images of the seat view. To me, that's I always do that separately. Like if I'm buying a ticket, I want to see my perspective, and there are websites out there that facilitate that. But you can do all of that right over at the Gametime app, and they're easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. And they also have flash deals and last minute tickets. They have the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, and job loss protection as well. So forget planning in months in advance. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. You can get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. So download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. And once again, you can create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right. Our power rankings for this week, as voted on by the hosts across the Locked On NHL network, are for the Hart Trophy. So if you are watching on YouTube, we are going to throw them up on the screen. If you are not watching on YouTube and cannot see what's up there, I'll just read them off to you. At number 1, wow, shocker here, Connor McDavid. Number 2 is David Pastrnak. Number 3 is Matthew Tkachuk. 4, Leon Draisaitl. 5, Nathan MacKinnon. 6, Ilya Sorokin. 7, Jason Robertson. 8, Jack Hughes. 9, Connor Hellebuck. 2 goalies on the top 10. And number 10 is Tage Thompson. So we're not going to dwell on the Connor McDavid thing. That is pretty much been set in stone since, well, Thanksgiving.
Well, I don't know.
Since Thanksgiving.
I don't know, Chris. I think not being able to get to 160 actually hurts his chances.
It does. It does. That's. I mean, come on. That's pathetic. Yeah. So it is. Like I said before, the only thing left to kind of talk about with the Hart and McDavid is if it's going to be unanimous. And if someone doesn't vote for him for first place, I kind of want to know the reason. And there's always this discussion, and we'll talk about it here with a couple of guys on this list, of what is MVP? Is MVP the most valuable player to his team, or the guy that just has an incredible season? And I think both of those things can be true, right? I think if a guy has an insanely valuable season to his team, he should get recognition. If there is a season where a guy just goes off and has a season that we haven't seen in a while, that is also MVP worthy. And for this year, that is exactly what Connor McDavid is doing. So I have no problem. And he is the most valuable player on his team. Let's get real. So it's kind of twofold.
Yeah. I mean, I've never been kind of in that category of people believing, oh, well, no, MVP to me has always been the best player in the league, not the most valuable player to their team. That's why they have end of the year dinners for all the players on the team. They give out a little something, whatever.
That's a good point.
But I don't know. I feel like, and I guess I'm leaning in a different direction. Maybe it's in my old age. I'm starting to open up to the new ideas, Chris, here. I think that what Matthew Tkachuk has done in his first season with the Panthers has shown that, yeah, he is the most valuable player on his team. And I firmly believe that if he doesn't do what he did this season, Panthers will make the playoffs. I think we could agree. They're not even remotely in the conversation. Having said that, Connor McDavid just, the conversation was over in November.
Right.
But we could play the what if game if you want to real quick.
Okay.
If he has a normal season, let's say 35 goals, 100 points.
Okay.
where does that place him among David Pastrnak, 60 goals, Matthew Tkachuk, Leon Draisaitl also has 125 points. So I think it's almost criminal to have him not in the top 2 if David Pastrnak wasn't lighting it up too, which is insane because we also have kind of not spoken about it, how last year Matthews gets 60. Before that, we have this long stretch of nobody even getting close. Now we have 2 guys this year, Chris, who have hit the 60 goal mark. I mean, is this, are we going to start to see a shift in guys just hitting that number every year like we have in baseball, hitting close to 50 home runs?
I mean, the way that these guys are just offensively gifted, yeah. I mean, is it going to be the norm, or you're just going to be in 60 goal seasons like left and right? No, but you might have 1 or 2 or 3 guys every year up there. I do. I think that's just going to be the way that it is, because there's just, the offensive talent is off the charts right now. And that's not a knock on the goalies. It's just, these guys are insanely talented. So yeah, I think 60 goals, you're going to be seeing that, like you just said, like with 50 home runs, is just like the norm, but not everybody does it. Yeah, we're going to be seeing more of it, I think.
And then the one name that's missing from this list is Linus Ullmark. I don't know how.
Yeah,
he's pretty much hit
in here. I don't. That's a weird one to me. How 2 goalies are on here and one is not Ullmark, who basically, I mean, he's the Connor McDavid of the Vezina Trophy.
He's hit for the triple crown of goalie stats. That basically get you to the Vezina, which is very strange. How we're not talking about that. I think Ilya Sorokin, as well as he's played this year, I think that's recency biased. That's just me. I think he's just, the last couple of months he's played out of his mind. But yeah, I don't know how we don't talk about Linus Ullmark if we're having a conversation with Connor Hellebuyck and Sorokin.
I don't know. I agree with that. I want to go back to Matthew Tkachuk, because he's a good reason why. and you let the season play out in full before you really, can put a stamp on who's in the running for this stuff, right? Because 2 months ago, we were, I don't want to say leaving the Panthers for dead, but we were pretty close. Yeah. We didn't think that the Panthers were really they're gonna fall off, even though he was having a good season all along. And man, that entire team, including him, just kicked it up into another gear. And my question to you is, who are the 3 that get invited? I should say, who are the 2? Because Connor McDavid is. Who are the other 2 that are going to be the nominees for the Hart?
I would have to say Draisaitl and Pastrnak. I mean, 60 goals, and then the other guy on the team, the right-hand man, and McDavid. I just think the league, that's too much of a sexy opportunity for them to pass up to just promote that as well. But I am interested, Chris, if you're David Pastrnak, because I know Draisaitl's not going to say this because he plays with McDavid, do you just not show up because there's 0 chance of you winning an award?
No, I mean, you go, because I'm sure there's nice perks that come with going, but
or in the pre award show interview, do you say anything that's like, I just showed up for the food, not for the award, because I know I have 0 chance of winning that.
That's exactly what you do. You show up for the good eats, and you show up for that nice gift basket that you probably get. And then when that award is being whoever is presenting that award, that's when you do your bathroom break, because you're not wanted after that.
I would like to see Pastrnak just pretend like he's shocked that McDavid gets it.
Yeah,
add a little bit of mystery to it.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that's the only thing left. Like I said in the beginning of this segment, is it unanimous? We shall see. I think it's got to be. I think I
said back to you in November, Chris. I said if he doesn't get a unanimous win, they need to find out what reporter in Alberta did not give him a first place vote, because that's definitely where it's going to be from.
Yes, absolutely. And to throw my guy out there with McKinnon. I'm fine with him where he is at 5. If he's missed 11 games this year, and just to show you like how the scoring clip that he's going on, he's at 107 points, I believe, right now. The pace that he's been on since the All-Star game is ridiculous. And if he had played a full season, he's in the 130s for points. So, and I would even argue he's not even the MVP on the Avalanche. I would probably go to Mikko Rantanen because he's played every game, and the Avs have had injuries up and down the roster all year long, and he's been the constant. He's got a 100-point season as well, but I get why McKinnon is on here. But I, as far as the MVP for the Avalanche this year, and that'll be something Kyle and I will talk about in the offseason, but my vote would just go to Mikko Rantanen because he's been the model of consistency, which they have needed this year. So, so that'll wrap it up. I definitely want to hear from people. Please, again, I have to just keep saying this. Like, these are not what Adam and I came up with. There's sometimes people in the comments just attack us for doing this is not. Adam and I had a single vote. This is from everybody across all the Locked On NHL shows. Just felt like I should preface that so we don't get attacked again. But I'm sure, like, you never do these power rankings, people have opinions. So please throw them out there. What do you guys think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Who should be on there? Who should maybe not be in these top 10? So that'll wrap it up for today. I'll go full screen on the YouTube channel so you can see these up close and personal. Oh, there we go. Boom. All right. That'll wrap it up for today, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the Thursday edition of Locked On NHL. For Mr. Adam Denker from Locked On Lightning, I'm Chris Maselli from Locked On Avalanche. And we'll catch you guys next week. Playoffs will be in full swing.